Hello.
Hi.
Morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right. All right. Yeah, let's get this started. So, my name's Trent Guathney. I'm the current president of NIC, the NJIT Information Cybersecurity Club. And don't you want to introduce yourselves? I'm here with...
Hi, I'm David Garcia. I'm a former organizer for JerseyCTF 2 and an alumni for NJIT ACM, who is also a big part of JerseyCTF.
Good morning. I am Noah Jacobson. I am used to be tech manager for NIC, the Cybersecurity Club, and I am now a student in the NJIT Secure Computing Initiative.
So, cool. Start. Cool. So, is this anybody's first CTF at all? Okay, get round of applause for the beginners. New challenges. Let's go. Awesome. I'm super excited to have all you guys here. So, if you don't know what JerseyCTF is, it's a cybersecurity capture the flag event. Basically, across 6 categories, there's going to be different challenge types that are going to test your proficiency across different fields of cyber, whether it be cryptography, forensics, OSINT. There's going to be a whole bunch of different challenges that are going to test your knowledge and proficiency in these skills. So for this year, JerseyCTF, it's our 5th JerseyCTF, our annual cybersecurity competition. Our theme's going to be noir, like crime, black and white, old film movie kind of theme. And we're going to have prizes available, which we'll go into a little bit more later. There's free merch. I'm rocking some of it. It came out really nice. You'll get it in the back table when you first enter. And we have industry and government speakers available to talk to. So networking opportunities. They might have some merch for you to buy. And yeah, just overall, it's going to be an awesome time.
Alrighty, so as we said before, this is the 5th iteration of JerseyCTF. NJIT has been hosting this for around 5 years, and JerseyCTF 5 is new and improved. So in terms of our improvements, we have 9 challenges per category with dynamic scoring. We have lore integration, so the storyline of noir will be more integrated into the challenges, and the speaker timing will take place before the CTF occurs, so if anyone wants to see the speakers before the CTF, so you have more time to focus on the competition. And our global presence, so JCTF is honored to have multiple people from various different countries around the world competing here at JerseyCTF, multiple states, multiple countries, and we hope to improve that list every year.
All right, so of course we wouldn't be here without our sponsors, so a big shout out to them. We're going to throw them now.
So first, we want to call Palo Alto up to first thank you for sponsoring, and if you would like to come up and give a speech. Are they here? Awesome. Round of applause, yeah. Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Katie. I'm from Palo Alto Networks, welcome to this year's CTF for NJIT. It's exciting to be here. Palo Alto Networks is a big player in the cybersecurity industry, and if going to events like this is really how we're going to improve talent going into the industry, especially as it's continuing to grow and cybersecurity needs grow. We're so glad to be here and sponsor this event. Feel free to come by to our table and talk to us about anything. Ask us about what we do, in potential internship opportunities. And yeah, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next on our sponsor sheet, we have Verizon. Oh, Verizon. Okay. Wiz. Keep going. GitHub. All right, yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Nareen Khatwani. I'm a data science PhD student here at NJIT and a GitHub campus expert. First of all, it's great to be back here. This is the third year that GitHub campus expert is partnering with JerseyCTF, and it's an awesome enthusiastic crowd out here. So let's get the Capture the Flag event started, and in case you want access to any student developer pack or student services, please come by our booth and say hi. Also, as a GitHub campus expert, it's my obligation or a responsibility to encourage any diverse community on the campus. So in case you are a student organization looking for sponsorships or anything, I'll be around there for a few more hours. So come say hi, and how can I help? Thank you.
Awesome. So AWS, would you like to come up? Awesome.
Hi everyone, welcome to JerseyCTF. My name is Aneri Modi and I'm the solutions architect for NJIT. This is my second year here, and very excited to be here, and also very excited to see the infrastructure being hosted on AWS Cloud today. All the best for today's competition, and feel free to stop by our booth today. Happy to answer any questions you would have regarding AWS, and good luck.
Thank you. No.
Hey hackers, I'm Becca Jernigan, Sales Development Representative here at CrowdStrike. Imagine being part of a team that stops cyber attacks in real time, protecting millions of people worldwide. That's what we do here at CrowdStrike. We're the company that major organizations trust to protect them from the world's most sophisticated cyber threats. CrowdStrike is not only the premier cybersecurity provider in the world, but also one of Fortune magazine's best workplaces in technology, and a recipient of the Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For award, as well as People magazine Top 100 Companies That Care. We're proud to be affiliated with a forward-facing and innovative institution like NJIT, as well as this astounding group of students. At JerseyCTF, you have incredible opportunities with industry experts and have a real impact in protecting organizations worldwide. Your growth opportunities are truly endless. This world needs more individuals like you to dig into the cybersecurity field, because let's face it, cyber criminals aren't going to stop recruiting and advancing the complexity of their attacks. No one knows that better than us. If you're interested in finding more about the company culture here at CrowdStrike or looking through our university recruiting page, follow the QR code on the slide. This weekend, we hope you have fun, work together, and adopt the CrowdStrike motto, one team, one fight.
On behalf of TechStream, we're honored to sponsor NJIT's Capture the Flag event. While we can't be there in person, we're excited to support the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. NJIT is an incredible partner, and we look forward to growing together and bringing our expertise to more institutions. Best of luck to all participants. Keep pushing the boundaries of security and innovation. We'll be cheering you on.
And now we'd like to introduce our security manager sponsors. So would someone from Asaka like to come up and talk?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us here. My name is Olusegun Opayemi Ajayi, Olu for short for obvious reasons. I've been a security professional for about 20 years now. I work for the city of New York, and I'm a member and a very proud member of ISACA. For those who don't know much about ASACA is a global security association of professionals. I'm here with some of my colleagues who are professionals in this field. ASACA helps people around the world to understand security and for professional growth and development in that area. We're going to be here for the rest of the day. We have this handout here with a QR code where you can learn more about what we do. ASACA is a worldwide body with numerous professions and certifications that are recognized worldwide. Some of them are listed here, like the Certified Information Security Auditor. All right, we have Cyber Information Security Manager, so that various opportunities for you to get your certifications and to grow and develop in that space. It's great to see, young people here, learning new things and doing great things. ASACA is definitely a certification and a professional body that can help you get to greater heights in that area. So when you have a minute, please stop by. It will be our pleasure to talk to you about cybersecurity and information technology. Thank you.
And next up, we'd like to thank Blackwood. Would anyone from Blackwood like to come up? And Splunk. Good.
On to our next sponsor tier, the network engineer sponsor. We would like to thank ADP and invite them up onto the stage.
All right. Are you all excited for the event? Come on. All right. Great, great, great. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank all the sponsors, all the organizers, and especially all the volunteers, because it takes a lot. It takes a village to really make it happen. So big round of applause to all of them. All right. So at ADP, we really want to foster the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, right? So it's not about just corporate responsibility. It's also about educating and inspiring and preparing the next leaders in cybersecurity, okay? So our table is right there. We have a cybersecurity professionals out there from ADP, and talk to them, learn from them what they do, right? And best thing is grab his swag, right? Free stuff is always good, right? So yeah, go and talk to people. All right, so if I reflect on my journey in cybersecurity, back in the days in early 2000, okay, I learned like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. There was no OWASP at that time. Okay? And obviously there was a lot of focus on network security, but there was very less focus on web application or product security. Okay? So best thing was if someone has a HTTPS site, that would be the most secure site. Right? So when I learned about that cross-site scripting and SQL injection, I spoke to my friend and who had a .com business, and I said, hey, did you focus on security? He said, yeah, I have an SSL certificate. It's HTTPS now. Like, what? So look at now. There were no events, CTF events that time, and look at now, everyone knows about, in the technology space, about security, and these events is where we have a next-gen security professionals, okay? So, because the threat landscape has evolved, okay? Every day there are new vulnerabilities, and and we need, you guys are the future. You guys are the future of, you are the cyber defense force, if you think about it, okay? So lastly, I really want to wish you good luck, okay? Embrace this challenge, learn from it, and network with your peers in cybersecurity, okay? And most of all, have fun. Thank you.
And cool. Now for our title sponsor, NJIT. Before we bring them up, just a little bit of some background information. They are the Homeland Security Division for New Jersey. They help businesses, local governments, even civilians with any kind of cyber incident response. Yeah, so these are some of the organizations they're affiliated with, like NJ State Police. And these are just some of the tasks that they're responsible. So they have SecOps, where, okay, the daily security operations that go for businesses across the state of New Jersey, we need to monitor and make sure that's assisted. GRC, are we following the rules? Are we in compliance with any extra laws that we need to be in the know? And then CTOP, just outreach and partnerships, making sure everybody is safe within the state of New Jersey. Cool. If you're interested, these are some of the contact information. You can reach out to them. They have a Twitter, phone number, email. And we also have a spot in the Discord for NJIT, so you can stop in, ask questions, talk to them. They also will be stationed here as well. And now I would like to bring to the podium Michael Garrity.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I'm Mike Garrity. I'm the director of the NJIT, the New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell. I'm also the state's Chief Information Security Officer. I want to thank everybody involved in doing this. The ACM, the students here, Dina, her team, all the different sponsors. But I really want to give a shout out to Logan Reyes, who was the brainchild for this JerseyCTF and who brought it to life about 5 years ago. Logan is now with the Department of Defense doing cybersecurity work. He's traveling overseas. He can't be here this year. It's the first time he can't be here. But this wouldn't be possible without him. So we miss you, Logan, but this continues in your name and it continues to go on. So a couple of things I want to talk about. Last month in February, we released our 2025 annual cyber threat assessment. And the threat assessment is pretty simple. It says that New Jersey organizations, public and private sector, and the residents of New Jersey are going to continue to see increasing and complex and more complex cyber attacks against our infrastructure and against our networks and applications and everything else. So that was in February that we released that. It's now March, okay? That threat assessment was pretty darn accurate because in February, not we, but the threat actors broke the monthly record for the ransomware attacks against businesses and organizations worldwide. We've had more ransomware attacks than any month before. Not only that, compromised credentials, the usernames, the passwords that everybody uses. Why hack into a system when you can log into a system? It's only March, and we've already done notifications of compromised credentials to all sorts of organizations in New Jersey, and these are your work emails and student emails and teacher emails and your passwords, more so than we did all in 2024. So the threat environment is getting more dangerous, more complex. And this is what makes the CTF really important. What you're doing today is what we do every single day in the NJIT. At least some of what you're doing. There's OSINT challenges, there's network security challenges, there's encryption, there's everything that you're going to touch on. That's part of what you do as a cybersecurity specialist or analyst, okay? Competition is really, really important, all right? Being able to compete. Now, this may be the first time for a lot of you, so this is kind of like your fun run. You're not really competing, you're just there to experience the event. Second, third time, now you're not only competing against others, about 800 registrants, most who are, online, but there's about 100 that are going to be here, 200 or so. You're going to be competing against them, but you're also, more importantly, competing against yourselves. If you were here last year, can you do a little bit better, right? That competition is part of cybersecurity. We compete every day against threat actors. Every single day. We've got our team over here. Rob Bruder is our deputy CISO in charge of security engineering, cyber operations. We analyze, ingest about 26 billion with a B, security events on a daily basis. That's a lot of events when you think of multiply that times 365 days a year. So those are the types of things when we say attacks or security events, and then all the different incidents that we're seeing. I've got the greatest job in the state of New Jersey and probably in the nation. I get to lead a team that is really energized, focused on this mission, that wants to protect everybody here. I get to work with all you. I get to meet all these talented students. Two of our most recent hires in the NJIT are alumni from this JerseyCTF. So when you're looking for jobs, not just having a 4.0 or great grade point average and SAT scores, it's what you're doing extracurricular wise. So doing CTFs is important. We do look for those. Being in band, being on sports teams, all those other things are really important because it rounds you out. As a job applicant, somebody that we're looking for. But it's also that passion, and I said competition, being able to compete, because every day you're going to not only compete against the bad actors, but you're going to compete against yourselves. Last thing, this CTF provides you an environment that's no fault. Okay? You're not going to screw things up. You're not going to bring a network down. You're not going to drop a database table or anything like that. This is your chance to practice. We have a cyber range in the NJIT where our folks practice every month. In fact, Katie is over there. She runs our cyber range. And our SecOps people and all our staff practice on that so that they can make mistakes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not challenging yourself and you're not trying. So with that, I'm going to stop. I could talk forever, and I'll be around to see a bunch of you. But this is exciting. This is one of the best days for us in the NJIT, seeing this and then all the stuff online. I think our winners last year were from Vietnam and over in Asia and places like that. So seeing this grow into a worldwide event is really exciting. Thank you for everybody who's making this happen, Dina, and all the different sponsors.
Cool. Now, on top of our sponsors, we had a whole bunch of internal NJIT teams and organizations help make this possible, and some external ones as well. The NJIT ACM with the admin, logistics, and just being around to host the entire event, huge help. The NJIT Secure Computing Initiative, which is a scholarship program here at NJIT, also contributed to the development and the process of getting NJIT. Nick also contributed to the development, and we even had Rutgers RUSEC play a huge role in some of the challenge development and categories that you'll be testing today. So, what is a CTF? If you came all this way and didn't know what a CTF was, you're going to find out right now. They're capture the flag events. They're security challenges that are meant to test different areas like forensics, cryptography. JerseyCTF is considered to be a beginner friendly. So even if you don't have a lot of experience, if this is your first CTF, it'll be easier for you to break into this one than a harder one. The challenges are going to be split up into various categories. You can see at the bottom, we have 6 different categories. We have cryptography, forensics, miscellaneous, OSINT, binary exploitation, and web exploitation. I made a good chunk of the forensic challenges, so you should probably test those out when you do it.
All right, and let's go over the code of conduct. So on Discord, please set your Discord nickname to first last name, and you can add an optional nickname. Don't post anything racist, explicit, derogatory, anything of that matter. If you have to ask, it's probably not okay. Don't spam. This includes posting anything off topic, repetitive. Don't violate the code of conduct. It goes without saying. Follow the Discord community guidelines. And do not cripple or destroy any service center infrastructure. They work very hard to make everything, so try your best to make sure everything stays on track. Don't work with any other team members of other teams, and do not share or post flags during the competition. We want to make sure everyone has an equal chance of completing the different flags, so please do not share or post flags.
All right, so if you want to create write-ups for challenges after the competition is over, please check out the event on CTF Time. There is a section on that website specifically for write-ups where you and others can submit, or you can read what others are creating.
Cool. If you need help, there is a ticketing system set up on the Discord for challenges. Please use it for tech infrastructure questions. No sanity checks. We're not going to give you the answers. You can see outlined. No answers will be given, no matter how much you beg. Oh, yeah, awesome. We have 2 divisions, to keep it fair, because we have a student division and then there's an open division. That way, the people who've been doing this for a little bit longer, students have a chance to actually compete and win some prizes. So, cool. So for third place, there's a $500 cash prize for the entire team, and you get the third choice pick from the prize pool. For second place, it's a $750 cash prize for the entire team, and then second choice from the prize pool. And then first place is $1,000 cash prize for the entire team, and then first choice from the prize pool. So,
Speaking of our prize pool, so we have 3 different prizes to choose from for up to 4 teammates. So our first prize is a 6-month subscription for Try Hack Me for each teammate. Our second prize will be a choice of 1 CompTIA certification basic bundle for each teammate. And our third prize is any virtual FutureCon briefing conference voucher for each teammate.
All right, so it's not just that, there is more even. So anyone that comes in person today and tomorrow will get a free t-shirt. In addition to that, there is opportunities for free swag. We're going to have raffles, we're going to have events, and also more money. So if you're in person, you qualify for the in-person cash prize bracket. So in-person first prize can win $400. Second place will win $200, and third place will win $100. Please do note that you can't win more than 1 division, so you can't win both student and in-person.
And coming up, we have speakers. We have a couple of speakers for you starting at 12. So our first speaker is going to be Ken Fishkin from ISC2's New Jersey chapter at 12 o'clock. This will be about cybersecurity, talking about how being a dungeon master can improve your cybersecurity program. If you like D&D, check that out. Our second speakers will be Krish and Jason from ADP. They'll be talking about pen testing and red teaming at 12:45. And then for our last 2 speakers, we have Anthony Harvey from AWS. He'll be talking about cloud and looking at incident response and the future of security. And at 2:15, we will have the FBI talking about the FBI cyber program. So check those out.
So, we're going to feed you guys, don't worry. You won't have to starve the full 24 hours. Feel free to check out any other places around NJIT too. There's this ramen place on the left-hand side that you can check out. But anyways, some things to note. If the doors are locked at 10, they shouldn't be, but in the event they are, and you get locked out, you don't have to spend the night outside. Just message in the Discord at night shift, and they'll let you back in for re-entry. Please keep the area clean. If we want to have this again next year, the better we leave this place when we found it, the more likely that is to happen. We will be live streaming the speakers and the ceremonies, and follow NJIT's code of conduct. Basically, just behave, be nice to each other. Anything you need to ask permission for, you probably shouldn't do. And we have, in the event that the JerseyCTF Wi-Fi doesn't work, we have the NJIT guest Wi-Fi as an alternative, and bathrooms are in the front lobby over there. Cool.
All right, so last but not least, good luck everyone. We hope you have fun. We hope you learn something. We hope you enjoy the speakers, all the events, and good luck.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Fishkin. I'm president of ISC2 New Jersey chapter, which is a cybersecurity organization geared toward students and professionals to share ideas and education, and it's very social. We're going to go into a little more detail about that, but today I wanted to give everybody a little bit experience of doing something called a tabletop exercise, and I'm going to make it a little bit fun for everybody. So, I work for a law firm. I'm head of security there. I've been there for about 6 years, and but my true passion really is this organization, ISC2, because we raised this organization just in 4 years from 30 people to 700, and I'm going to show you why why we grew so big. So we have some great events going on this year, last year. We're going to Topgolf next month. We did some race car driving last month, and these things are all free, by the way. We have a group that educates seniors about the latest cyber scams that's going on. We did about a dozen of those events. We have a holiday dinner. We have all these community service events, picnics. We have monthly educational meetings. We have a lot of fun, this organization. And there's members here scattered around already. There's a lot. We have 200 students who are a part of this already from all across the country. Our chapter is in half the states and even some other countries. So these are different programs that we have, different things that we're doing. If you're not great in public speaking, we have a public speaking workshop. We are doing podcasts if you want to get experience doing that. This is a community-oriented organization. Anybody here can just become a member. For students, it's only $10 a year, and you can be part of all this. And most of the stuff is free. So I'm going to get into a little bit of my presentation. So what I wanted to do is, one of the things I love doing is something called tabletop exercises. And tabletop exercises is really Dungeons and Dragons, but you're getting paid for it. So how many people here have seen Stranger Things? Okay, good. So we're going to combine Stranger Things with cybersecurity. I don't think it's been done yet, so I thought it'd be fun to do and make it a little interesting. We got one guy over here who's a former student, who's one of the most active volunteers in the chapter. If you have any questions about our organization, Pradeep, a graduate of NJIT right here, is one of the best volunteers we have. So when you're developing a tabletop exercise, you want to think about what are the crown jewels of a company. And what I mean by that is, what is the most important thing that they care about? These days, what is the one thing that everybody cares about? Can I have one hand up? Yes. Money, right. But is money physical anymore? No, right? It's just data, right? So it's something that's worth something to another person, right? That's what we're talking about here. So I work for a law firm. So the crown jewels would be, maybe it would be patents that we have that we're storing for clients. Maybe it would be social security numbers or private information that we keep. So they want that kind of information. Now, you can see over here, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things, right? So what would be the crown jewels in Stranger Things? Anybody know? It would be their lives, okay? That's the crown jewels. So they got to protect their lives, right? All right, so you have to understand the company's risk tolerances also. So some companies like banks are going to be like, we don't want any risks at all, and we have a lot of money. We're going to make sure that you're protected at all times. Where maybe a startup company will be like, It's all right. We don't have the money for too much for cybersecurity. We'll take those kind of chances. So that's what you got to think about. And you also have to prioritize your risks. So maybe having a website is a little more riskier for a company like a bank as opposed to a startup company. Okay, so you have to prioritize where you want to put the money in, because everybody has only a certain amount of money, and you got to figure out how you want to put where you want to put your money. So there's 3 pillars of cybersecurity program. It's people, process, and technology. Now, in the case of Stranger Things, we know who the people are, right? We got the crew. Now, the people at a company is going to be your engineers, it's going to be your incident responders, it's going to be people making sure that you have the right policies in place. You also want to make sure that you're providing security awareness training to everybody. You want them to know what the risks are and how to spot them. You also want to make sure that senior management has your support, otherwise known as your parents, right? Like Hopper and the mom. You want to make sure that they know exactly what you're up to at all times, because they're involved with the tabletop exercise as well. So you want to develop procedures. Procedures are ways to make sure that you are constantly doing things the same way over and over again, so that way you're not sloppy. You're setting up a machine, Pradeep's setting up a machine one way, and you're setting up a machine another way. That's not very good procedures, right? There's going to be holes if you do it like that. So what you need to do is make sure that you have what's called playbooks, so that way when something does happen, an incident, you can just be like, oh, it's a ransomware attack. I'm going to make sure that I know exactly what to do, instead of scrambling around, going on the internet, going to ChatGPT and saying, what do I do when a ransomware attack happens? You want to be able to have it all laid out as much as possible and know exactly what you're going to be doing. Okay, does that make sense? If you have any questions at all while I'm doing this, feel free to raise your hand. And I know these topics may be a lot for you, but anyway. So technology. So in Stranger Things, right, they had the walkie-talkies and they had the antennas to communicate with people. What are some technology in the cybersecurity space? Anybody can give me a cyber tool? Yeah. A SIM, right, exactly. Anybody else have one? Yeah. What? Firewall, right? Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more. Anybody know a cybersecurity tool? All right, how about antivirus, right? You'd have to have that. All right, so you have to think about all the tools that you need, but tools aren't good enough unless you have good processes and people in place to make sure that those processes are being followed. So that's why you have this triad of the pillars of cybersecurity. So these are your threats, right? In Stranger Things, you got the Demogorgon, the Mind Flayer, and you got the Doctor, right? Who are some of the threats in real life? Yes. Malicious insiders, excellent. Anybody else? Yes. Threat actors, right? Yes. Go ahead. Nation-state actors, excellent. You also have insiders that are not malicious as threats. So you have people that make mistakes. Those people are also threats, right? You set up a AWS S3 bucket and you don't put the proper permissions in, you're a threat also, okay? All right, what are your vulnerabilities? All right, for 11, she had the collar, right? Remember when the collar was put on her? That was a vulnerability. She couldn't use her superpowers anymore. And the Demogorgon doesn't really like fire. Those are the vulnerabilities. What are some vulnerabilities that you find in real life? What? People. People. Excellent. What? Social engineering. Right. Exactly. Anybody else? Unpatched servers, unpatched machines. Those are vulnerabilities too. There's a lot of different vulnerabilities that we have in the systems that we're trying to protect. All the things that you're doing as part of the CTF, your goal is to find those vulnerabilities, right? So you're trying to find the holes within whatever your target is to get the crown jewels. In your case, the crown jewels is whatever the token is or whatever you need to show the proof that you completed the task. So that's what vulnerabilities are. All right, so then we go over what security measures you have in place. 11 had cameras surrounding her when she was trapped, and but Dustin had communication, so he was able to communicate with everybody. And then we had the mother with an axe, right? That was her security control. What are some security controls we put in place in real life? Yeah. Role-based access control, excellent. Yeah. Can't hear you, sorry. IPS, excellent, yes. Intrusion prevention system. All right, anybody else? Multi-factor authentication, perfect. Yeah, you guys got it. All right, you know what you're talking about here. Fantastic. All right, so we went over what things you need to protect, how you can protect them, and now you can start the tabletop exercise. So in this case, we got the Hellfire Club doing Dungeons and Dragons right now. So now we can start. Hold on. So these are the elements that we're going to look for. We have to make sure we're prepared. We can detect and analyze them. We can isolate the threats and eradicate them and recover from them. And then finally, we can do lessons learned. These are the 4 things that make up an incident response. Without them, you're not going to be able to take care of the bad guys and make sure it doesn't happen again the same way. So most common cybersecurity attacks, simulators use phishing attacks, ransomware outbreaks, insider threats like he talked about, and third-party breaches. Does anybody know of a third-party breach that happened recently? Yes. What? 23andMe. Great example. Yes. 23andMe. So even though you could be the most protected within your company, if one of the companies that you work with gets breached, it's possible that you can get breached also if you don't have good security. So typically on your IR team, you're going to have the cybersecurity professional, you're going to have a CIO, you're going to have you're going to have human resources involved. You might have a communications team involved. All these people need to be able to be in sync when you have an incident, so that way you minimize, you get it done as quickly as possible, and you minimize the damage that could be done. So if you can isolate one machine before it spreads to 100 machines, you're really going to be on track. These are the entities that you're going to be facing: criminals, clients or customers, lawyers, employees, a SOC, insurance, and the media, and law enforcement. All right, so June 10th is our first day of the incident. A manager called the help desk to say they cannot access some records with a customer database regarding a big merger with a public company, and data is quickly restored by IT. A few days go by. Some employees informed the help desk that they were emailed about a critical database update and downloaded it, but IT did not push down any updates recently. So what's an example? What happened here? Number one. What's that an example of? Phishing, right? Yes. So phishing started to happen. The help desk is now flooded with help desk tickets, and they're not able to access their customer database. Senior management is now calling the head of IT. It's not looking good. And on top of that, there is slow network performance. So at this point, is it considered a breach? Would you call the FBI now? What would you do at this point? Is it a little early right now, or well, in this situation, only knowing the facts that I gave you before? Any thoughts? All right. So it might be a little early to call this a breach because we really don't know what's going on. All we know is that people are complaining about an update, and we don't really know much about that update yet. So we'd probably contact senior management, let them know what's going on, restore everything from backups, make sure everybody's up and running, tell the employees, we'll get you back up and running as fast as possible. Now you get something like this. I know it's hard to read on this screen, but this is a ransomware demand. For those of you who have never seen what a ransomware demand is, this is what it looks like. It's not pretty, it doesn't have that skull and crossbones on it, it just has text on it, and it says, "Pay us money now." And you have only a certain amount of time before you can do it. And you have to respond. If you decide to turn off this machine and ignore it, you have no chance of paying that ransom, and all your data could be gone. So some places have to pay this ransom, like hospitals. They have no choice, okay? Some companies may make it a business decision and say they want $50 million, but our data is worth $1 billion, so $50 million will do it. So it's not so easy to just say, we hate hackers, we're not going to pay these guys. You have to make a business decision, and that's why you do these exercises, is to find out how much is your tolerance to pay somebody, and when would you pay somebody. So they have a clock on, and at this point, you're probably going to have to talk to your lawyers, you're going to have to talk to the FBI, and you're going to have to get a little more detail about what's going on. So what happened was somebody got this type of email, and they were pretending that it was a benefits email, and everybody should click on the link for the update. You'd be surprised how many companies still fall for these, okay? This may look very simplistic, but when it comes to your money or your benefits, and you're working really hard to get your job done, and this comes in the mail, and it looks like it's coming from your company, you might click on that link if you're not looking at it. You may not notice that it's coming from some BS email address or some Gmail. Any questions about this? Part of my job is to trick my company into falling for these scams, to make them aware that these things are happening. So whatever the latest scam is, I'll send it to everybody and make sure that they know that that's the latest scam. But this stuff happens all the time, and even if they get 20% of the people to fall for it, or even 2% of the people to fall for it, if they can get somebody to install software on their computer, then they can go to other machines once they're in there. And that's when things get really bad. So a couple days go by, and the company finds out that it's on a black market site, their data. This is how bad it could get. Imagine you're working for a startup company, you're trying to, you're just starting out, and you find out like all your clients' data now is going up for auction. It'll ruin you. So you have some choices here. You can buy back your data. Imagine spending $40 million to buy back your own data because you didn't secure it properly. This is the reality of what happens. You have to contact a public relations firm. You have to make sure that you know what you're going to say to the public. What if this is you're a big company and you have to make a public statement about what happened? This is why you do tabletop exercises, is to practice these types of scenarios, so if and when it does really happen, you are prepared. And for those who are thinking about starting your own business, these are the types of things that you need to think about. I know people who have started their own business and completely went out of business because cybersecurity was the last thing on their mind. And as a result, they folded pretty fast. Oh, I don't know what happened. Hold on. Hold on, sorry. All right, so the company that you're trying to merge with now, they get a message like this. Imagine if you're trying to do a merger with another company, and the hackers know about this merger now, and they send a message to them telling them that their company has been hacked as well. It gets really bad once it gets started. It all depends on how fast you can react and nip it in the bud. What happens now if you're on CNN and all of a sudden your company's on national news? This happens. We've all heard about, like we said, 23andMe. That was all over the news. Company that's been around for a very long time, and now the genetic data that they stored is now available and being sold and doing whatever. We have no idea what happened to that data. Very scary. Then we find out that the data, we have a forensics company taking a look to find out more about the ransomware. Digital forensics, you guys are familiar with that? We have a digital forensics company taking a look at the data, and they find out that the ransomware organization, the gang, they're from Iran. Do we do business with Iran? No, we don't. So now it gets really complicated. Now you got to talk to the government, and you got to tell them, I know we're going to Iran, but we really need our data back. Can we pay it? And as long as you go through the government, you can pay them, as long as you have their permission and they know what's going on. But if you don't tell them about it and you circumvent them and just pay it, you could be fined even more because you're helping a terrorist state. So these are all the questions you have to think about. It really gets bad. So when you're all done, after you do your tabletop exercise and you scared everybody, you do something called an after-action review. And you want to make sure that, this is called lessons learned, basically. And you make sure you go through all the different areas where you had weak points, whether it's security, vulnerabilities, or whether it's policies and procedures that you don't have in place. You put that all out there, and you make sure that people know where their gaps are. So that way, when you test them again, they know exactly what to do. Everybody heard about Caesar's Palace or MGM being hacked? Do you know why they were hacked? Right? It was the help desk, right? So you got to do a tabletop now with the help desk people. You got to make sure those help desk guys know what to say. If somebody says, oh, I don't have my phone with me, I can't identify myself, but I really work here. Not to get around that system. Make sure they know to stay with the policies and procedures that you set up and you test them out to make sure that they're valid. Maybe they come up with ways to circumvent it, so that way you make it even better. It's a great way to flush out what happens. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Any questions about tabletop exercise, the importance of them? All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. I know this is just the beginning of your long journey doing Capture the Flag, and I wish you all the best of luck. So, thank you.
Hey, if anyone of you wants CPE credits, like if you have a cert or anything like that for that talk, please come up to this table and give us your email. We will send you a certificate of attendance.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Happy to see a lot of participants here today. I am from ADP. I'm going to give a brief intro to red teaming, kind of mostly focused on what we do in the corporate world, but a lot of concepts I'm sure that people here will be familiar with, given what this exercise is. So go to the next slide. Next. Yeah. So a little bit of background on who I am. I am originally from Michigan, moved to New Jersey right before COVID, so that was awesome. I like bad movies, all things technology. I started my career, nobody will know what this is, but in EDI and Bison communication. That basically just means I'm a lot older than all of you. Did some time as a generalist, trying to figure out what kind of things I liked. Ended up coming to ADP 20 years ago. Came just as a product support engineer, and have done various things throughout the company since. There's a lot of great opportunity for lateral movement in the company, and getting into new and different technologies. So my primary background is in identity and access management. I spent a lot of time both as an engineer and architect in leading teams focused on access and authentication. Active Directory specifically is kind of a core competency of mine. Currently, I'm reporting to ADP CISO in a deputy CISO capacity. I do a little bit of everything. I ran our incident response team for a while, and currently I am running our threat management organization, which covers threat intel, hunting and detection, and of course, red teaming. Go to the next. Thanks. So what is red teaming? So red team is the practice of simulating real-world TTPs, right? With the goal of testing a company or an organization's defenses, finding vulnerabilities, basically being proactive to uncover the ways a threat actor might get into your organization and fix them before they can get into your organization. So what is red teaming not? I get this question a lot. Red teaming is not pen testing. They're very different. I would say the one really key difference with red teaming is it really focuses on the people, process, and technology, right? In some cases, red teaming, you are testing your help desk to see if they're going to fall for phishing. You are testing your incident responders to see how well they are able to detect and respond to the type of attacks that you're bringing in. So a lot of it is education and training. And that can extend even outside of incident response teams to kind of the rest of the blue teams, the people maybe in IT or managing databases or whatever. So a little bit about the teams that you'll hear around red teaming. So there's quite a few. I always steal this image that Daniel Messler made years ago. I really like it. It's a good explanation, especially for people outside of kind of what we do in cyber. Wanted to bring this up because I think with red teaming, purple teaming is a really important aspect, right? So purple teaming being a little less covert, right? A red team, usually you're going to do it without anybody knowing, maybe key leaders at a company or whoever brought you in. But generally, the defenders don't know that you're there, right? But a purple team is more collaborative. It's, hey, look I'm going to do this attack. I'm using this kind of TTP from this threat actor. Let me know how you see it. Tell me how you found it. Tell me how you detected it. And then both teams really can learn a lot from each other in real time, which is super valuable for kind of uplifting both sides, both attack and defense. So why do we red team? Well, the reality is threat actors are evolving very, very quickly. Some of these organizations are significant in size and resourcing. Some of them have HR departments and employees of the month. Not to mention when you get into nation state actors and things like that. So some interesting statistics here on just cybercrime in general. It's a booming business. There's no limit of adversaries coming out. The gentleman was mentioned earlier, ransomware and things like that, continue to plague us. So we're constantly on our toes from that perspective. CrowdStrike recently released their threat intel report. It's really good. Check it out. Indicating breakout times are continuing to go down. The fastest breakout time they saw in 2024, I think, was 51 seconds. So that's basically a threat actor got initial access and started moving laterally in less than a minute, right? So as defenders, the clock is ticking, right? So the point of red teaming is really to help them be able to get faster and help detect these things quicker and quicker. And then we also, of course, have the nation states, right? So I heard Iran mentioned, North Korea. Some reports estimate North Korea made 50% of their foreign income from ransomware attacks. This is all they're doing. Every day, this is their job, is attacking companies, and also they get into crypto heists and other things. And then there's also a lot of threat intel indicating they're starting to heavily leverage different AI technologies, whether it's doing real-time video and phishing people through social engineering to do financial transactions, or setting up fake job profiles and trying to get hired as a company. It's the last thing you want to do is hire somebody who's really a North Korean threat actor to be on your payroll. So, there's a lot of things that we have to defend against. So the value of red teaming. I'm going to go next. Value of red teaming. So again, the value is really learning how threat actors would attack your organization and making sure that your controls your preventative controls are working, your detective controls are working, your incident responders are able to leverage those technologies and leverage those detections to respond and contain those threats as quickly as possible. I don't remember who wrote this quote, but if somebody's smart, and I like it, but a sign of a mature organization is really the ability to invite in this kind of red team mentality and proactively uncover these avenues for really opportunities for improvement to better bolster your security. And red teaming is really great at uncovering those escalation paths, data exfil opportunities, and all these kinds of things. Obviously, cloud, SaaS. He also mentioned supply chain. Those are huge. Big things that need our attention. Red teaming can really help uncover some of those risks and help reduce the likelihood of a compromise there. So the phases of red teaming. So I would say the most important phase really is the planning and recon, right? Part of planning is the agreement on your objectives and your scope. So the ROE, the rules of engagement, super important. This is like your get out of jail free card. You want to stay within those confines. You don't want to go outside of them because you don't want to potentially have a unintended impact to the business, or worse yet, end up leaking something that shouldn't have been leaked and create an incident for yourself. Also, if you start doing red teaming kind of as a external organization, it's pretty important to stay within these boundaries. You can go read, there's been some stories a couple years back of red teamers breaking into state buildings and kind of getting into trouble with local law enforcement and stuff. So again, those rules of engagement and following those and having clear objectives are super important from that perspective, but also to show the value of the red team. You want to know what your target is. It's basically like you're doing here with CTFs. You've got flags, this is what you're doing, and this is showing how you were successful. Obviously, then you move into exploitation, lateral movement. You're finding vulnerabilities, you're exploiting them, you're moving. Depending on the red teaming engagement. You might be moving very fast, you might move low and slow, but you're basically, actions on your objective. You're trying to get to what that target was in your ROE. And then reporting is really important, right? So the ability to document what you're doing, be able to explain it, be able to create a set of findings that will help the target organization improve their security, educate their people. You've got to tell a little bit of a story there. Certainly then getting into recommendations. We're not all security professionals in the corporate world. Like even the people building the systems need some help. They need some guidance. Like what's the best way to fix this vulnerability? What should I do? Like that's a big part of what red teaming is educating those teams. And then lastly, the remediation, follow-ups and all that. So getting a little bit into best practices on next slide. You want to make sure your red team engagements are kind of tailored to the organization, right? So you definitely want to be leveraging threat intelligence, know about the industry, know what threat actors are potentially targeting that industry and how they're doing it. So you really want it to be tailored to the organization, right? Different industries are going to have, different prolific actors that are, potentially attacking them. Again, clearly defined objectives and the rules of engagement are really critical to show the value of the red team engagement. And just, the other thing is to remember is it's adversary emulation. It's not, you want to be realistic, you want to be creative, but it's not flashy. You're not trying to do some Hollywood hack, right? You don't want to train your blue teams to detect red teams. You want to train your blue teams to detect threat actors, right? So sometimes it's just something I think teams forget. And then again, educate. Like the value of the red team is educating the people in the organization, whether the defenders, builders, people in IT running the systems, whatever it is, like that's a big part of what you do. It's not about winning. It's about finding these things, educating people, uplifting their security practices, and just making the company better. And of course, don't forget OPSEC, super important. You don't want to cause a data exfiltration leak. You don't want to negatively impact the business by going outside of the bounds of your rules of engagement and potentially taking down some critical business function. That would not be good. So a couple bits of information on framework, tools, skills in the next slide. I won't read through all these, but some of this you're probably familiar with given what you're here doing. Thank you. So some of this you're probably familiar with, some frameworks to check out. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's familiar with things like MITRE ATT&CK and even some of the tools here. This is mostly cyber focused. There's obviously the whole other world in red teaming of physical pen testing, of those types of things. I would say, a big thing with threat actors too is, LOL, living off the land. Knowing your native OS kind of ways to get around, whether it's Windows or Linux. We see a lot of threat actors kind of coming in and burying in, going slow. They're using native OS tools because they're definitely less likely to be detected, things like that. And a bit of a shout out to Hack5. They got a lot of cool stuff there if you want to check it out. Things like Wi-Fi pineapples, Bash Bunny, stuff like that. So some cool stuff, Rubber Ducky. Cool things to learn and play with. Skills. I mean, one thing I really like about red teaming and really cyber in general, there's just so much to learn. Like there's so many different aspects, whether it's, knowing about threat intel, knowing, about C2 and C2 pivoting, or, getting into social engineering. There's a lot of different skills involved. I guess my suggestion would be kind of try everything, see which thing you like the most. You might be surprised, what kind of draws your attention and what you start to develop your expertise in. And lastly, don't forget the soft skills. So really easy to forget some of these things, but from a red team perspective, I would say be detail-oriented, super important. Keep track of everything you do, timestamps, exact commands you ran, screenshots. This is all super important for both the education and when you inevitably run into the people who manage the systems and say, that didn't happen, you didn't do that. You know, now you can kind of walk them through and show the proof of that, which is super important. Continuous learning and passion, I will tell you as a leader, when I'm looking at candidates, I'm far more interested in people who are lifelong learners and have a passion for learning, because the reality is in cyber, like, this stuff changes all the time. The things I learned 20 years ago are largely useless. I mean, it just changes constantly, and that's one thing I love about it. So, adaptability is important, be innovative, right? You try one thing, you might have to pivot and try something else. You might have to go learn some other information on the fly. That's all super important. Communication and presentation skills, again, super important. Like, if you're trying to show the value of a red team, you need to be able to present to business leaders kind of in a language they understand. Maybe a little bit of scare tactics, why they should care about it, but really to show what the impact of what you found is to their business. Like, that's what's really going to get them to take in the information. And again, I mentioned earlier, it's not about winning, right? Be humble. You're there to help uncover these things. You're there to help educate the people who have brought you in, or your peers if you're on a red team within an organization. It's a huge part of it. But, be humble, be nice, be empathetic, but be devious. Like, you're there to get in, and you're there to get to your objective. And I mean, you be devious and creative, to get there, however you need to. Lastly, just a few resources on the last slide. You can take a look at just some things worth researching on, different certifications that are useful. Some things like OWASP, WebGoat, or Metasploitable to help kind of train your skills. Again, I imagine this audience is probably pretty familiar with most of these, but just wanted to share a couple things there. And then obviously, I'm a big fan of getting involved in things like this. I don't actually do speaking like this normally, so I apologize. Feel free to leave me a bad Yelp review or whatever. But I think coming to these events, talking to your peers, making the most of the event is super important. I hear people talk about going to things like B-Sides or even DEF CON, and it wasn't great, but I really do think it is what you make of it. Like, break out a little bit, talk to people, meet people, learn from your peers. Really, really super valuable. So appreciate your time. That's all I got. If there's any questions, I'll be around. And I'm going to invite up my colleague here from ADP to talk to you about pen testing.
Thank you. Hey guys, so if you haven't grabbed lunch yet, by the way, there are sandwiches and wraps and more over there. So make sure to get some.
Hello. Hey guys, so how are you all today? Are you all geared up for the CTF? So a little bit about myself. I'm Krishnan Lata. I go by Krish with an ADP. I've been in the application security for 10 years, and I actually started into application security because of CTFs. Back when I was in India, there were some CTFs that started, and I went to these with my friend, some of them just because I was so curious, and that's how I got into AppSec. So now, I was told to talk about introduction to pen testing. But should I talk about that? I'm pretty sure every one of you here is doing a pen testing, right? This is the same thing that we are doing here. So I'm pretty sure what you all know what is penetration testing. But let's at least look from a corporate perspective what happens when we do penetration testing. So this is something that I got on the internet. Can I have the diagram, please? So these are the 6 steps that we have when we do penetration testing. So we start with pre-engagement interaction because we have lots of team across an organization. And we have to get all the apps tested. So we go to them and start talking about which apps that need to be tested, prioritize the apps, and get environments and stuff like that. And then we have to scope them, right? Like you have to understand what's the scope of the application, when was this tested before, and when we have to test it again, and why. Is there a difference? Because in today's world, I'm pretty sure any application that comes in, it's going to keep on evolving. And now we have AI, so everything is evolving much faster because everybody wants to incorporate AI into their application. So we have to test that also. But maybe the feature was already tested last month. So what is the additional thing that we are testing? Because we have a limited time, and within that limited time, how much we can test. The third is vulnerability identification, which is what you're all doing today, trying to find a bug, and then describing the bug, and exploiting it, right? What can I do with that? I found a bug. Let's say I found SQL injection. What can I do with that? That's what's going to tell me a little bit more about the application, and a little bit more like what is the severity rating that I have to give, or what is the risk that I have to associate. And once post-exploitation is the most difficult or the most boring part, because as a tester, I love to find bugs. I'm pretty sure all of you love to find bugs and talk about it. But then in the corporate world comes the second part, where we have to go ahead and document that. And this documentation is boring because, one, I have to write a lot of steps. Two, it's not just enough if I write some steps, right? A person who doesn't know testing or who doesn't know about vulnerability is going to look into my report and understand what's the bug. And this is a funny story I tell all the time. I have found an XSS. I had like a 2.5-page documentation on how to get the XSS. A developer looks at my report and he says, oh, there is no vulnerability, because he clicks on the OK button because I just made a pop-up alert, and if you click on the OK, you can go. And he says, oh yeah, just click on the OK and move on. So my 2.5-page documentation, which explained everything about the vulnerability, was not at all worth it. I had to sit down and talk to him. But in the corporate, it's still important that I document them. So that's the 6 phases. So now comes the question, like, I'm pretty sure, how many of you here have done bug bounties? Nobody? Nobody has done bug bounties? That's interesting. So, do you all know what's bug bounty? Okay, at least I'm seeing few heads. So if there is bug bounty, that's more cost effective, right? I don't have to hire people to a corporate organization. I can just use bug bounty to do my testing. So why do I need pen testing when I can just use bug bounty? So that's what I want to talk about, because I mean, all of these, I'm pretty sure you all know, you have done CTFs, you have found more complicated vulnerabilities and everything like that. So I don't want to talk about SQL injection or cross-site scripting or anything like that. But why not use bug bounty? Why it's better to use a penetration testing team for a company or for a corporate company, and then not just rely on bug bounty? Yes, bug bounty adds defense in depth, but bug bounty is, first let's think about scope. An application, for example, let's say Bank of America. I'm pretty sure most of you will be banking with them. They have hundreds of applications. Let's say thousands of applications. How much of that is a bug hunter going to look at? Bug hunter is always going to look at something that's juicy because he wants to get some money or be in the Hall of Fame or something like that. So he's not going to look into every single app. And on top of that, he's not going to focus on those critical apps because he doesn't know which is a critical app, which is a non-critical app. For example, yes, money movement apps can be critical from a banking perspective, but if you go into some other sectors, we do not know what is more critical. We do not know what information it holds from a bug bounty guy. But yes, some users who are using that application, they might know, but that's a very high risk that we need to take to do that. So that's one of the things. Scope, now if you have a corporate pen testing team, then you can tell them, hey, these are the apps that I want to be tested. Rank those apps, tier them and say, these are tier 1's app, and so these need to be tested very regularly, which cannot be done with bug bounty. The next question is trust on the actors, right? So when I do a bug bounty, there are a lot of platforms today. There's BugCrowd, there's HackerOne, there's a lot of them. People can register to that and come and, I mean, they do sign some NDAs and stuff. But what if they do not report back to the company that they found a vulnerability? They found a money movement vulnerability. They were able to find some bug through which they can transfer money to their personal accounts. What if they do not tell us that there's a vulnerability like this? They just use it to siphon some money into their accounts. So we cannot, I mean, I'm not saying everybody will do that, but that is a possibility. That's why we need a vetted guys within our team who are testing these apps regularly to understand these vulnerabilities and then be able to educate the company and make sure that remediations are carried out on a regular basis. Next, from a cost perspective, yes, bug bounty is much cost effective, right? Because you're not hiring them, so you're not worried about the insurance, you're not worried about their laptop, you're not worried about their licenses, tools, you don't have to worry about them. But when you hire them, it can become a problem because at one point, I was, even now to an extent, I work on bug bounties because I'm on the other side of bug bounty where when a bug bounty is reported, I look into it. Now, as an attacker, he just finds this vulnerability, comes and talks to me about it. But me, on the other hand, has to go ahead, figure out who is responsible for this, make sure there's a remediation coming out, and that remediation is happening in time. And then again, what happens if 5 different people submit the bug bounty to us at the same time, on the same day? The same vulnerability. It's not going to happen a lot, but that's a problem that we have to think about. Whom do we award? And if we don't award them, they do not come back to test us. They will be like, if we do not give them replies on time, they can get frustrated, then they don't want to talk to us about it anymore, they just stop doing it. So that's one thing. And then there are a lot of false positives that will come in. Because as a bug hunter, my thing is, oh yeah, submit a vulnerability somehow, and then try to get $350, $400, whatever, right? I can submit 4 or 5. One of them is a true positive. The others are not really true positive, especially the low-hanging fruits. I can make a little bit screenshot, mismatch, submit. So who identifies that? So again, we need somebody on our team to do that. That's why we need pen testing, because these guys can go in, check if it's true or not. And then comes the next part, right? Like about documenting this. Again, as I said, documenting is the biggest part because identifying the vulnerability is one thing. Documenting is very important because it not only shows how to remediate that, but we also need to educate those developers. Remediating once isn't enough. We have to continuously be looking at it and make sure that the same vulnerability is not there. Let's say I identified excesses. Tomorrow I build one more page and access is again on there. So that's not going to be cost effective for me from a company perspective. I have to educate the developer and show him how not to introduce new accesses. So that's why having a team helps to educate these developers within there. And then scaling, right? As the company grows, the company buys newer companies brings a new product. When AI came in, AI integration is coming in. Sometimes we have to test even before we put the product out into the market. We cannot give them a testing, and bug bounties generally I have seen they happen on the production environment. So we have to we can only give them the data environment for testing. So there is no testing in the testing environment. So there is no testing that's happening before it's hitting the public. So these are some things. And another question is like, let's say SQL injection or something, or a cross-site scripting. If I give a malicious payload as a bug bounty guy, that's, if it's a stored one, then that's going to be stored within the application. So unless I ask somebody to go ahead and remove it, the data is going to be there. So it's going to be there for a sufficient amount of time or a little bit amount of time until which this particular vulnerability exists. And it's going to let other people know that there is a vulnerability and they can take advantage of it. But if we are testing it in the testing environment, we can use whatever malicious payloads we want, and the public wouldn't get to know of it, and then we can take some more time to remediate it and do things like that. So I hope I was able to convince you all why we need a penetration testing team and not just a bug bounty. But the good part about bug bounty is that it's a good tool or good way to get into penetration testing. Because now if you do bug bounties, if you're not doing bug bounties, I would say you should go back and start doing them. It's a good way to, when you want to get a job, you can say, hey, I have done these bug bounties. And most companies, they would give you, Hall of Fames or things like that. So you can go and show off your skills and use them to become a penetration tester. Once you become a penetration tester, then you can understand the wider scope. And I'm also sure Jason, he was here a minute ago, he showed you a much more in-depth of how that works and all those things. So you will be able to see not just testing, but also understanding how to classify the apps, how to risk rank them, how to decide which apps you need to test first, which apps it's okay that we can test later. So those things, that's something that happens in the corporate, and it's a very interesting thing, and be able to interact with other pen testers and engineers on remediating them. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Hey everyone, I just want to quickly shout out the shirts over there. If you're a participant today, you can go and pick up a free JerseyCTF participant shirt. They are comfortable. Woo!
All right. So hopefully everyone had a good lunch. We're going to go ahead and get started and get back here and talk a little bit about active response, right? What does that look like from an AWS perspective? We want to really understand what the life of a responder looks like. So as a quick background, I'm Anthony Harvey. I'm a senior security specialist, solutions architect. It is a mouthful, but essentially that means, yeah, gotcha, thank you. Essentially that means that my job is to help public sector customers with their security challenges. So if they're state, local, higher ed, like we're here today, right, I'm here to help them walk through any sort of security issues they may have. Now, I spent 4 years as a chief information security officer, spent 6 years in higher education before that, went to George Mason, for those of you that are aware, right, but I spent my entire life in cybersecurity and in the public sector. Now, as a quick agenda, right, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the threat research, some of the things that you all are doing in your CTF today, what we see from an AWS perspective, and what we do about it. And then I'm going to give you a couple of real-world examples. We're going to walk through what some of these incidents look like. We're going to walk through how people need to respond and how quickly these incidents occur. And then we're going to go and switch gears a little bit and talk about some lessons learned from incident response. I've unfortunately been in quite a few incidents. I've seen what it looks like to be up at 2 a.m. trying to answer a phone call about some particular environment. And then lastly, just some kind of recommendations, some takeaways, and some predictions for the future around where I think we're going from an AWS perspective. Now, to start about with what we're seeing, right, and how we approach threat research. We have a team at AWS that is dedicated to threat intelligence and threat research, right? And their mission is to provide verifiable and actionable data to internal Amazon teams and to create a virtuous cycle where we're feeding in our intelligence back into AWS defense systems, right? So that's why we do this threat research. This is something that really helps our customers, of course, but also the internet as a whole. Now, if my clicker is still working. Oh. Okay, there we go. So what does this process actually look like, right? We take a look at our inbound and outbound traffic, right? We want to be able to take that research and then convert that into threat intelligence, but we also want to make sure that we're interrupting these attacks that are happening around the world, right? We actually want to disrupt these threat actors and the people that are doing bad things in our environment. Now, my clicker is still not working. All right, there we go. We have this service called MadPod. Is anyone aware of MadPod? Has anyone heard of MadPod at AWS? So with MadPod, it is a service that was disclosed a year and a half ago, and it's essentially how we do a lot of our threat intelligence. It's not the only way, but it's one of the big ways that we do it. And so to kind of start off and to paint a scene, right? When you go and put something online, within 3 minutes, someone is going to try and attack it, right? You stand up a new server, you stand up a new website, you have a new database online that's publicly accessible, you have RDP open to the world. Hopefully that's not the case, but if you do, chances are, on average, within 3 minutes, someone is going to try to start attacking that environment. Now, that was the case when I first did this presentation back in 2022, right? That used to be the case. That is no longer the case. Now we're seeing this advance quicker than ever. So if it will slide. There we go. All right, so we have our vulnerable server here, right? Nice little happy face. It is a vulnerable public server. We're going to call this a website, right? It could be WordPress, it could be Drupal, it could be what have you, all the fun servers that you're dealing with. Within 30 seconds, someone is going to start scanning it, right? If you go and spin up a new virtual machine online, 30 seconds, someone's going to be not necessarily trying to break in the front door, but they're going to be looking through the windows. They're going to be just seeing what's on there, maybe grab a server fingerprint, maybe grab a banner, right, and get that information. And then within 90 seconds, now someone's actively exploiting it, right? So we used to have 3 minutes. Wasn't a lot originally, but from our research, right, we are seeing servers being scanned within 30 seconds, and within a minute and a half, they are actively being attacked, actively being exploited. Now, we know this, right, because we operate all around the world. We have servers all around the world, regions, all these little dots on the screen exist around the world today. Now, we have, of course, a lot of customers around the world, right, that are hosting information on AWS, but we also hide some things in there. So is anyone familiar with the concept of what we call a honeypot? Cool, so we got a couple of nods there. So for those that aren't aware, right, these are gonna be our decoy servers. So when you go and scan with Nmap, right, or if you go and scan with whatever, if you're logged into Shodan, what have you, right, you're gonna come across what we call honeypots, or they're gonna be fake websites, they're gonna be fake databases, they're gonna be fake whatever, right, to capture how threat actors are working, how threat actors try to break into systems, then we record that and turn that into threat intelligence. And from there, we leverage that to help improve the security of our customers as well as the security for the internet as a whole. So going back to that example, right, we have our vulnerable web server, and within a minute and a half, right, someone's trying to exploit it. Now, for those of you that are kind of familiar with Postgres here, I'm going to use that as part of this example. So we have our honeypot, right, 90 seconds in, it's getting exploited. In this scenario, we're still going to respond like a standard website, right? You're going to still have your standard GET request just to the home page. Everything is going to look fine. You would probably know that nothing's wrong, right? And what we're trying to do here, right, is that we don't want to give the illusion that it is actually a honeypot, right? That would defeat the purpose. So we're going through, we're letting people that are just getting to the website do their standard GET requests, but we also are going to be answering on a variety of different ports. So for example, Postgres, right, and they're sending a client hello, we are actually going to go through and respond back to the threat actor underneath there with a Postgres server hello response. Even though if someone were to go to the website, they're just going to still see a standard 200 HTTP response, right, and no one's going to be the wiser. But that server hello is going to hopefully trick the attacker into thinking that it is a real Postgres database. And from there, we're going to get some more information from them. So in this scenario, right, we have your copy Postgres command, right, and we're echoing a string, shortened for brevity, but echoing a string that's going to be piped into a base64 decode, and that threat actor is going to think that they successfully exploited this system, right? They didn't. This is just a honeypot. This is just a fake environment that we're using to understand how those threat actors work, but we are leveraging this to build that profile out, right? So we're going to continue to essentially kind of perform these types of movements to understand how these threat actors are working in the environment. Now, what are we actually seeing, right? So you can understand how we get this data. Now, what is the data, right? What are we actually dealing with here? DDoS isn't going away. I'm going to say that outright. With DDoS, we still see year-over-year growth, especially because it is one of the types of attacks that aren't really based off of a particular exploit, right? You're just overwhelming a server with information to the point that it can't respond, or you're overwhelming a resource to the point that it can't respond. And so that's why we still see this all the time. But we're seeing a lot more at the application layer. So think about things like HTTP floods, WebSocket overruns, right? Being able to consume resources at the layer 7 level. So it's one of the big things that we're seeing from a DDoS perspective. Now on this screen, I know it's going to be probably a little bit hard to see, but you're going to be able to actually look at some of the what we call proxy drivers, right? So any threat actor, chances are they're not going to be doing this from their basement, right? They're going to be doing this from either another compromised instance. They're going to be using a VPN, a proxy, something along those lines, right? So these companies might seem a little bit familiar, but these are some of the top talking networks that we see from a threat perspective. And that's what makes it a little bit challenging, right? Because a lot of these are used for legitimate purposes just by nefarious actors. So if you have a website up on DigitalOcean, for example, there's nothing wrong with that. But there are threat actors that we see going into the AWS environment that are generally involved with some of these networks that you see up here. Now, DDoS and those sort of attacks are definitely one of the big ones, but another one is also cryptocurrency mining. I don't know if anyone's in crypto, but of course, mining is a big thing. And of course, we're tracking all the different ports that this traffic goes across here, but there are two that are kind of interesting. The first being port 80, right? I think a lot of you probably know port 80 being your web traffic, being able to get to your HTTP resources makes it a little bit more challenging, right? You need to still be able to filter normal web traffic and separate that out from that malicious or threat actor-based traffic. The other one that's on here is port 9001. Is anyone familiar with that port or know what program that's associated with? So that one comes from Tor, right? So the onion router, being able to hide your IP address, being able to access the quote-unquote dark web, being able to go through and anonymize yourself as much as possible. That's another huge one that we see in space, and for good reason, right? People are trying to avoid being caught mining cryptocurrency in particular environments. And then the same thing from an ISP perspective, right? So from a cryptocurrency, you're going to see a lot of those same internet service providers as part of this, but it is just really interesting to kind of see the breakout. Again, we have probably some more data that I can't necessarily show today, but just understanding where some of these ISPs are coming from a security perspective. Now, from what else that we're seeing from a threat actor, from a tactics and procedures, right, that we have a lot of threat actors that are leveraging compromised workloads, right? So you have a threat actor, they compromise a server, they're going to go and pivot and use that compromised server to attack another server, right? It makes it super easy for a threat actor to try to hide, and especially if someone's doing this globally, where other countries are involved, that makes it quite a bit more challenging. And that's why we see this in over 50% of our attacks, that having a compromised workload is just super prevalent, especially when you think about things like DDoS, right? And you're being able to go and send that information and try to take systems offline. Now, again, because that does happen globally, it's definitely one of the biggest ones, but it's not the only one, right? So our denial of service bots, of course, happen quite a bit. We talked about the rise and continued rise of denial of service attacks. In this particular scenario, right, you're going to be leveraging what informally is called as like a zombie, right? So someone compromised a computer, compromised a server or a machine, and they're using command and control to tell it to attack another server or another service from a denial of service perspective. So that's something that we see a decent amount, right? Taking those sites offline, giving you those, probably shouldn't even be a 404 error, should probably be a 500 or otherwise, but we really are trying to show the fact that we have a lot of compromised workloads that are being used in these denial of service attacks in these botnets. The last one, and I think it will be fairly obvious for a lot of you, is that we see evasion all the time. So when we say evasion, people are trying to hide their tracks, right? They don't want to get caught. And so being able to exfiltrate data in a way that doesn't raise any red flags is something that we see in about a third of compromised workloads. So for example, if someone got hit with ransomware, they may try to send out the encryption key over DNS, right? Or update it with a TXT record. I have seen that quite a bit, right? Being able to leverage unusual infrastructure, being able to request an SSL certificate that has encryption information in there, right? So lots of different ways that people are being that people are crafting and trying to evade detection when they are doing these types of activities. So with all that being said, right, we talked a lot about theoretical. Let's get into some real world examples. So the first one, right, we're actively, as I said before, trying to make the internet a safer place. So when we see some of this threat data and we see some of this threat intelligence and see these active alerts, we are actively reaching out to some of those ISPs that you saw earlier to perform some of these takedown requests, right? So we reached out to this particular organization and we said, hey, we noticed that you're hosting command and control information, right? And potentially impacting not just AWS customers, but customers around the world. How can we help you solve that? How can we help reduce or remove that so that way we're protecting ourselves, but you're protecting your own organization as well. So something that we definitely do and reach out to these hosting providers about, but we also do a lot internally. So I'm gonna build a timeline here really quick. And this is gonna be primarily around credential stuffing. If any of you are familiar with credential stuffing, right, it's the reason that we don't reuse our usernames and passwords anymore, right? Or at least hopefully you're not doing that. When you have credential stuffing, someone has a list of like a username and a password, right? And they're gonna try it across every website they can think of, right? So if you're on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on whatever, you reuse that same password for your bank, this is where credential stuffing can really come back to bite you. So in this scenario, right, there was a large scale activity on this, right, against VPNs, against SSH, and Cisco reported out on this back in April 16th of last year. Now, Okta also found out about it, Okta being a company that works with identity solutions, and they also saw the same thing. They put it up on Hacker News, and they said that there is a huge surge in credential stuffing. But we also knew this, and we started working on this much earlier, right? So back in March 26th, we actually put in the first mitigations, and then we were able to roll that out in a few more days globally to help protect against this, way before Cisco even went public on this, right? So this is what I'm kind of focusing on when we say threat intelligence. It makes your life a whole lot easier, and it helps protect everyone that exists on AWS. And the cool thing about what the team did here is that it was a very quick process. So the security engineers, right, and I've talked to a few of you about security engineering and what that actually looks like. This is a great example. So they saw the VPN and the credential stuffing activity. They went through and created some new classification rules for Matpot, right, for our honeypots, for our fake servers. And from there, they were able to tailor that down and actually create those mitigations all in the course of about 24 hours. So from the time that we saw that attack actually occurring to the time that we were able to mitigate that was about a day, which I think is really cool, right? When we think about the sheer speed that threat actors work with, being able to do this at an organization our side within a day is kind of awesome. Now, another example is, anyone here worked with containers at all? All right, we definitely got a few here, which is great. So we have what we call EKS, our Elastic Kubernetes. And what we saw here, we actually went through and we had anonymous access enabled just to see what would happen, right? We wanted to see, like, okay, we're gonna do this in a much more manual method than the traditional Matpot. And so at T-0, right, on our first day, we misconfigured the cluster to have anonymous access. Within 9 minutes, it was discovered by generic scanners. So we got lucky. We were a little bit slower than the 30 seconds that we normally see on average. But within 9 minutes, we had a generic scanner looking at it. And then in about 45 minutes, that's when we started seeing those targeted exploits against Kubernetes, right? So they were going through and trying to figure out if there were any CVEs that were applicable and leverage that against the environment. And they were able to do so in about 4 days, right? So they were able to access some secrets, they were able to escalate their privilege, and then in 10 hours, they started to do what I said was super common. They started to mine Bitcoin, right? Well, maybe not Bitcoin specifically, but mine cryptocurrency, right? So if you can just think about like the timeline of this, it happens very, very quickly. And being able to recognize that and remediate it is super important, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. Now, one last real-world example is going to be from a food service organization, so name change to protect the innocent here. But essentially, we went through and worked with them because we noticed that there was suspicious activity coming from their environment. Now, the interesting thing is that they thought they fixed it. They thought that, like, oh, we remediated the incident. We think that we have everything under control. And we talked with their security teams, and we're like, yeah, you may think that, but we're still seeing that traffic. We're still seeing the threat actor in your environment, right? So it's definitely an interesting aspect from incident response when you think about it. When do you say that enough is enough? When do you say that you've completely eradicated the incident, right? Because that may not necessarily be the case. Now, I want to talk a little bit more personally, right? Some of the lessons that I've learned from incident response over the course of my time in IT and in cybersecurity. So the first thing I'll start off with is a quote, and if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. I think it is super, super important, especially in IR, right? We go through so many times where something goes sideways, everyone's scrambling to try to remediate a threat actor in the environment, but there wasn't a plan enabled, right? We heard a little bit earlier this morning about tabletop exercises, being able to go through and test to make sure things work effectively. This is the reason why, right? We want to have a plan in place. If you're tired because you've been working 13 hours in a row trying to figure out how someone popped a shell on your WordPress server, and you don't know where your backups are and everything else, and you're just sitting there like with your hair on fire, right? It's because you didn't have a plan, you didn't have a playbook or a run book. This is something that my team helps a lot of customers with, but it's so surprising how many people don't actually go through the process of building out the way that you want to respond. So this is something that I think is just really, really important from an incident response perspective for those that are going into incident response, or those that want to do that as a career. Know that having these playbooks are going to be very important, right? This is how you're going to be able to respond quickly, and this is how you're going to be able to automate as well, right? So the manual remediations, they introduce error. If you have a threat actor in your environment and there is ransomware, for example, trying to do that remediation manually, one, is going to be a whole lot slower, right? And time is going to be of the essence with ransomware. Two, you have the room to introduce mistakes, right? There are places where you can miss things. So if you have that playbook, those run books, you have the automation in there, that's going to make your life a whole lot easier. And there's also the concept of forensics that came up earlier too. Same thing can be applied there, being able to isolate it, right? So let's go back to that website that was popped. If there's automation, you can go and isolate that, preserve all the evidence that you need to do. And what, at least in my experience, that I commonly see is that you'll have maybe a third party come in once you've done your initial triage, right? And they're going to need to be able to work with those forensic artifacts, and automation can help make that quicker, and it'll allow you to scale as well. I've had way too many calls way too late at night because something happened, and I was so tired of it, I really wanted to just automate and scale out the way that we responded to security incidents. So there was one scenario where we had a run book, and our entire goal was just to get that number down as low as possible. We were at roughly like 17 minutes from the time that we detected an incident to the time that we remediated across the organization. And we were just working every day to get that number lower and lower, right, and make that quicker and more efficient. The other thing about the incidents, right, is that they can vary. So there is a concept of insider versus external threats, right? So a lot of people are focused on your external threats, your external incidents. You can also have an insider threat, right? That is something to be aware of and something that I've unfortunately had to go through, right? And be able to respond to that type of incident, but that's going to be different. And that's going to change how you do communications, for example, right? If you have an insider threat where the communications might not necessarily be valid anymore or that you can trust them, right? Being able to work with out-of-band communications. And I was actually working with an organization earlier this week, or maybe late last week, on exactly that, right? Talking about what does it look like from an out-of-bound communication standpoint if you can't trust your emails anymore, if you can't trust your Slack, your Teams, and so on, right? So being able to still respond back to those incidents. You also will see accidents, right? We talked about that humans are not error-free, right? There are accidental issues. I've had people accidentally wipe my entire multi-server system, right? We'll try to keep it anonymous, but that was an accident, but that becomes a security incident, right? Because that was a security-related system that was no longer operational. For those that are heavy in Linux, right, it was a mistyped RMRF command, forgot the slash as part of it, and just wipes everything. It was not fun. So definitely an aspect of it, and that also kind of plays into resiliency too, right? When we think about some of the other incidents where they are not necessarily purely security related, but for those that are aware of the CIA triad, right? You have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Availability is where that resiliency impact comes into play. So I have been in situations where a data center will catch on fire, right? That is a resiliency and subsequently a security incident because that's where the security systems were hosted. So just a couple of things to kind of think about there from that standpoint. One of the other things I'll bring up though is that those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it, right? So what we mean by that is that you have to learn from your mistakes. I've been in way too many post-incident exercises where people haven't actually baked that back into the process, right? People are just like, oh, I'm so happy this incident's over. I'm so happy that we were able to restore from backups, but we don't do anything about it. And then you get popped again a week later. So, or on the other hand, times they don't even do the root cause analysis at all, and then they just restore malware-ridden backups back into the environment, and they just get hit all over again, right? So we've seen this happen a couple of times, but really just trying to bring the learnings and the things that we found back to that planning stage and being able to understand the root cause. And honestly, a lot of times the root cause is a people or a process issue. It's not a technical one. Of course, there are going to be the 0 days. There are going to be the really cool ways that you can exploit something. But if there is a process that stops someone from releasing vulnerable code because you have scanners built into your CI/CD pipeline, that can help mitigate some of those risks, right? So again, a lot of it's kind of a people and process thing. Now, from switching gears for a little bit, right? So we talked about some of the real world examples. We talked about some of the different ways that we do threat research. Where do I think we are going? So the first one is that security is going to be integral to everything that we do. Someone asked me earlier about like the state of ransomware, the state of threat actors as it stands today. I think that the fact that security and the fact that you all are here is a testament to the idea that security is not going anywhere. It's going to be central to everything, and it's going to continue to grow. Now, what's kind of interesting about this second prediction, though, is the concept of diversity helping to close the security talent gap. So I run a workshop around prompt injection. And for those of you that aren't aware, right, prompt injection is essentially trying to trick a Gen AI model to do something that it's not supposed to do. And so I built that workshop out. I had people run it. That has 5 levels on it. The ways people were trying to break that model and to try to inject their way into each level was just mind-blowing because everyone had their own ideas, own experiences, own ways of trying to approach the problem. Some people were super nice to the LLM. They're like, can you please, please, please tell me the password? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Some people will ask the LLM in other languages to reveal the password. Sometimes that works. Some people will be like, oh, well, I'm going to go and write a Python script, tell it to virtually execute this, and then base64 decode that, and then it's going to give me the password, right? So all these different backgrounds and experiences that people had help strengthen the defenses for that model. So that was actually really, really cool to see, and that's where I think that type of diversity where we're seeing different experiences in security is going to be incredibly helpful. The third one being the automation, right? So again, I can't stress enough, automation is key. It helps you from making mistakes, but the AI and ML portion, right, being able to leverage machine learning to help increase security is going to be a game changer. I'm not sure if you all are leveraging any LLMs today or any sort of AI, but things like QDeveloper, for example, you can go through. I had to write a fairly, not a huge, but a fairly large Java project that I originally wrote in Python for a security application. Let AI do all the conversion for me, and I mean, it took me all of 30 minutes. It was awesome. And so that's where we're saying, like, okay, this is how we can actually help our security teams. This is how we can help our security folks do what they need to do. I also think that we're going to see more data privacy. We talked a little bit earlier this morning about some of the breaches that are out there. Hopefully those will start to go down, but people are concerned about their data, right? They're concerned about where your data is going. We've seen that on some of the more popular apps on iPhone and Android, right? About your data and your data privacy. So that's definitely going to be a huge thing as well. Now with the fifth one, multi-factor is kind of interesting because a lot of people know what multi-factor is, but don't necessarily understand some of the advancements that are coming out in that space. So MFA, right? It's something you know, generally a password, something you have, right? It could be a little token. You can get a little push from Duo. You can get some sort of thing that you have on your person. And then the last thing is something that you are, right? So we see this with Face ID. We see this with Touch ID. We see this with Windows Hello, right? Being able to verify something based off of what you are. And so we're going to continue to see the expansion of that. There's actually some research being done now where I think they're at about 80% accuracy of identifying someone just by the way they walk. So imagine that you're going into a data center. You may have your badge, right, something you have, but the way you walk is now that MFA, right? Is that something that you are. And so it's really cool just to see the different way people are applying biometrics to help improve security and help provide additional factors of authentication. And then the last thing, of course, would be quantum computing. I think it's going to be here sooner than you think, and that's something that we're already working on, and we're already adding additional endpoints and things that are resistant from a quantum cryptography standpoint. So definitely more to come on that sixth point, but it's something that will be here sooner rather than later. Now, I do want to hone in on the automation portion really quick because this is what we do all the time. So let's say we have an incoming interaction, right? 192.0.2.0, and it is on port 443, looks like HTTPS traffic. Matpot, right, our honeypot system is going to try to attempt that classification, and it's going to drop it based off of these historical interactions, right? So that's kind of the process of it. We know that this is going to be in Class B here, just due to the way that the packets themselves have been represented, the destinations, and so on. Now, to make this a little bit easier, right, this is where we're leveraging that machine learning, and we do this at scale globally, right? Being able to essentially build these models. So going back to what I said before, we're not doing this with a human reviewing every single packet. That's not going to scale. That's not going to work, right? So when we have this model, we have this learned representation of what these security incidents look like. And so from that standpoint, as it gets fed into the model, right, it's just going to be dropped into the appropriate class, right? So in this case, we have it in There we go. And in class B, where we saw that earlier. But we're doing this at scale and we're doing this at speed because we only have that minute and a half before someone tries to start exploiting things, right? So we need to be able to scale, and that's where machine learning comes in, right? And there's so many different applications for it. And for AI in general, even now with things like computer use and tool use with AI, being able to go through and look and click around within an environment to see if there are vulnerabilities is just really, really cool to see. So with that, I just want to end with a couple of recommendations for you all, right? The first being is just stay informed, right? I had a couple of people that came by earlier asking about what they can do to kind of skill up, right, to make sure that they are doing the most that they can, right? And being at places like this is a great way to do so. You saw earlier with a Try Hack Me prize. Try Hack Me is awesome. I've used it in the past myself, so really cool to see that as part of this. Of course, being able to participate in industry events, right, and having some of that peer sharing, whether it's through local things like a B-Sides or something, or shamelessly, I'll say through any AWS type of thing, but being able to just really kind of get that knowledge. And also learning from others, right? This is why we're all here. This is why we're all working on the CTF. You can learn from others. You heard earlier that you'll have essentially an after action, right? You'll have the walkthroughs that people are going to upload based off of the CTF, right? So really being able to understand what other people have did, and uh-oh, did I die? All right. Okay. Last couple of slides. Thank you all for bearing with me, right? But yeah, learning from others, making sure that you're able to really kind of absorb some of this information. It is incredibly important and a great way to set you all up for success. Last portion being just don't forget the security basics. We talk about eating our security dog food. We talk about security hygiene. We talk about all these different ways of saying just do the right thing, right? We try, at least at AWS, to make the right thing easy and the hard thing wrong. But every time you delay one of those updates, every time you have someone ignore a process, right, and get socially engineered, right? These are things that are the basic core principles, and having the basics is just incredibly important. It's one of the ways that you can help reduce these risks. So with that being said, though, that is actually the end. I know you had to stick in there for the last couple of slides, but definitely appreciate it and hope you all enjoy the rest of the CTF and get a good prize. So thank you.
Who? Hi. It works. It works. Hi. Bye.
Hello, everybody. All right. We'll try to stay a little bit farther away from each other. But anyways, my name is Michael Drzdowski. As it says here, I'm a staff operations specialist with FBI Newark, working cyber matters. And this is Alberto. If you want to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alberto Carranza. I am a computer scientist with the FBI. Who here is a computer science major? Everybody? All right, so I'm the geek. I'm the geek in the FBI, okay? So I've been with the FBI for 15 years now. And as a computer scientist, I'm assigned to the FBI Cyber Squad in Newark. Does anybody know where the FBI office is here in Newark? Does anybody know? You guys know that it's not that far from here. You got to speak loud. I didn't hear him. What is this? No. The FBI office here in Newark. Do you guys know where it is? Not close to well, not that close.
Yeah.
It's in McCarthy Highway.
Over down by Penn Station.
Yes, correct. Right? So, who was here on last year's CTF? 1, 2, not that many? Okay. All right, so for you guys that were here last year, you'll probably know some of the stuff that we'll cover. It's not going to be new to you guys, but for everybody else, I would say it might be new. So I hope that you actually take something out of it. So go ahead, Mike. Go and start.
All right, I'm going to start it up.
When someone says FBI, people typically visualize agents doing this. FBI, third floor, open the door! Not this.
Let's say be interested in drugs there.
But now, more than ever, the Bureau needs more agents working from behind closed doors.
Most any background in called the cyber field is a need for the FBI.
Supervisory Special Agent Martin Helmer says the FBI is actively seeking out cyber-minded people. These are people with backgrounds in disciplines such as system administration, engineering, information technology, computer science. In order to successfully carry out many of their investigations, the FBI needs tech-savvy agents who work from behind the keyboard.
Most of what we do, whether you're investigating a bank robbery, a fugitive case, or a computer intrusion, sophisticated computer intrusion, involves some sort of technical component, and it therefore requires some technical know-how.
There is a difference between cyber crime and cyber warfare. Criminals commit cyber crimes to victimize someone, to steal, to harass them, to intimidate them.
And we usually think of that as a financial victimization or harassment or that sort of thing. Whereas cyber warfare would entail a national security component.
I think we
Helmer
lost
says they
video.
also need these bright cyber minds.
All right. Well, they get that fixed. I guess I can talk a little bit more about myself. So this place is kind of home to me. I went to NJIT. I was an undergrad and a grad student here. I was an intern at the FBI while I was still in school here. So it is very nice to come back and visit NJIT and take part in the CTF. I was here last year as well, but yeah, it's just, you know, great to be back, and hopefully the tech issues get fixed somewhat soon. Yeah, well, I mean, before the video got cut off, I know you guys heard a little bit about what he was talking about. In every sector of crime, we're starting to see a lot of the cyber kind of aspects to it, right? Whether that be cryptocurrency or that be IP addresses. I can't tell you enough how many times I've been asked by agents from all of the different violations about, oh, like, what's this, you know, number, what's this, you know, IPv6 address or IPv4 address? How can I look it up? What can I do with this? What am I supposed to do? All right, looks like we have the presentation back, so I'm gonna see, is it gonna work? Okay, so to kind of elaborate a little bit more on what I was talking about here, we might have lost it again. All right, but either way, I'm gonna go talk about what was on that slide either way. It was more or less listing out the priorities of what the FBI is prioritizing right now, which would be terrorist attacks, foreign espionage, and then the third one on that list, which was highlighted in red, is computer intrusions and computer crimes. So obviously pretty high up there in terms of priorities for the FBI is cybercrime. And that's why there's such a huge focus for not only the Newark division, but the FBI as a whole to bring in more STEM-minded agents, professional staff, computer scientists, analysts across the board to kind of build out something that we call the Cyber Task Force, which I will get into now. Yeah, so as you see there, the cyber-based attacks and high technology crimes right behind terrorist attacks and foreign intelligence. All right, so some of our domestic coverage, I'll cover that just before the Cyber Task Force stuff. We do have cyber personnel in all 55 field offices, and like I said, Cyber Task Force, special agents, computer scientists, intelligence analysts, task force officers, professional staff, you name it, they're on the Cyber Task Force if they're working cyber matters. We also have international coverage through our legal attaches at over 70, or in our 75 U.S. embassies worldwide. All right, so to kind of break down some of the capabilities here, we have 24 FBI-led partner agencies, which is in the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force, and then we also have the FBI CAT team, which is a investigative rapid response team for some of those bigger computer intrusion incidents that occur throughout the country. And then also there's CART, which handles a lot of the digital evidence, digital forensics kind of thing. They're very well trained in handling digital evidence. So to kind of elaborate a little bit more here, again, like I was saying before, the cyber task forces, they're made up of agents, analysts, computer scientists, task force officers, and other task force members to include professional staff. Each local task force synchronizes the cyber threat investigation, information sharing, incident response, and so on, as well as looking at the NJIT, partnering with them as well. This here is a map of New Jersey. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what the Newark office covers here, we do not cover all of the counties in New Jersey. As you can see, those bottom counties kind of right here on Gloucester, Camden, and Salem County. Those are covered by the Philadelphia field office, primarily because Philadelphia is right across the river there. But the Newark office covers all the other counties besides those three in the state of New Jersey. So any crimes that occur there would be reported back to our office, and we would investigate. Some of the top cyber threats out there today include hacktivism, cybercrime, insider threat, which was mentioned earlier, espionage, cyber terrorism, and cyber warfare. Now, Alberto's going to give a quick overview about his role in the Cyber Task Force and the computer scientist role altogether.
I got it. I have a question for you guys. Out of all these top cyber threats here, which one do you guys think can occur here at a college environment? Hacktivism? Okay. Anything else? I can't hear you. You know what? Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. All of them?
No, but which one? Give me an example that you think which one can occur here at a college campus.
Cybercrime?
Okay. There's one over there.
Hang on. Oh, I'll come over.
Insider threat.
Insider threat? Okay. How? Please tell me how an insider threat can be a cyber threat here at a college campus.
Because they already have access to the network and physical.
Okay. All right. So who here has access to the CTF? Do you guys have access to the CTF right now? No, right? But who can be the insider threat? All the red shirts, right? Do we trust the red shirts? Do we? Do we trust the red shirts? They have the access, right? So each individual here could be an insider threat. How do we make sure that we trust them? How do we trust the red shirts? How do we make sure we do that? Anybody? How do we trust you? The college just give you access to the systems? Maybe? No, they didn't do like a background check or anything like that? No? No? They're very trusting, huh? But in the corporate level, they will try to do some background checks, right? Because some systems are very sensitive. And I would say at a college level, that kind of thing will start to be happening. So as a computer scientist, everybody here who is a computer science major, who knows how to do network administration? Who's studying network administration? A little bit? That's a good skill. All right, how about database management? Who has those skills? Over here? Okay, a little bit. We're learning still. How about programming? All right. What do we like to program right now? What language? C? Okay. What else? Java? Fortran? Nah, get out of here. Okay. Anything else? Python, maybe? What is the most popular right now in NJIT? Python? How about Golang? Maybe? No? Not yet? Python, I like Python. Golang is getting popular out there too. Anybody who does any malware reversing? Do we know? Oh, someone over there? Okay. How long you been doing that? Half a year, okay. A little bit? Is it easy or is it hard? It depends. I think it's hard. But you have to know programming, right? For that specifically, right? Penetration testing, we heard a lot of previous presenters that did penetration testing. Anybody doing penetration testing right now? They are? Okay. All right. How about online covert operations? What does that mean? Right, you're going to forums and you're trying to collect intelligence, right? Okay. And digital forensics. Who is here done digital forensics? One? Anybody else? Okay. All of this stuff right here, all of these skills, that's what I have to know. That's what I have to know and learn. Am I a master of all of this? I'm not. I'm not a master of any of these skills. But I have to be aware of it, right? Just like our previous, like AWS or ADP, the red teams, right? Like you have to have all these skills, right? Because to be able to investigate cyber crimes, you have to know a little bit of everything. And that's great right now in this college setting that you're studying a little bit of everything too, because That's how it's going to be out there for you. We'll skip that. Question, who's done digital forensics here? I know you have, okay. Have you ever done digital forensics on a cell phone? No, you have not, okay. Who has done digital forensics on a cell phone? Okay, you have? Why? How was that? Was it a schoolwork? Oh, okay. I can hear you, sorry.
I'll go over. You good, man?
It was for work.
It was for work. Okay. Whose phone did you do digital forensics on?
It was an application, not a phone actually, sorry.
It was an application what?
It was an application, like an APK, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So it wasn't a student's phone? It wasn't somebody's phone? Okay. All right. How about you? Okay. An old phone. Can you give him the mic?
I'm currently in school for cybersecurity, computer science. So I'm taking my professor introduced FTK Imager to us, and he made us download it and image our hard drive, right? So now, since I have the 30-day trial, because you're supposed to pay for it, I have an old phone that I'm turning into my own project where I'm going to image it and try and get the information and stuff off of that just for kicks and giggles.
Great examples, right? He was testing some of his skills in old equipment, an old phone that he had, right? So he's doing it for school. A lot of us here to learn, we have to do it ourselves outside of that, where it's not for school, it's just for us to learn those skills. And believe it or not, this is one of the skills that it is very hard because technology changes, right? When it's hard is because technology changes, so you have to keep up with it. So one of the skills is, and I believe the gentleman from ADP mentioned that when they're looking to hire somebody, they're looking for the people that are self-taught. They're always constantly trying to learn. I have been working in cyber for 15 years, but I'm learning every single year. I'm still taking classes every year. I'm trying to get certifications every year because things change so much. I mean, the technology from 2 years ago has changed, right? So just because you think you master something, you haven't, because things have changed. And not only that, but maybe you're good at database management, but then now you're getting thrown into something else in technology. So it's one of the skills that you always have to keep learning. And I'll tell you that that's one of the best skills to have is you gotta just have that instinct of wanting to learn more and more. So who knows what a distributed denial of service attack is? Can somebody tell me, can you go out there? Can somebody tell me what a distributed denial of service attack is?
Yeah, so I think to know what a DDoS is, you need to know what a DOS is. And a DOS is from one source, you bombard like a company or a server, deny their service. So Google has a search engine. You bombard their server with a bunch of requests so no one else can hit their server. A DDoS, a distributed denial of service, is when it's not from just one source. And the reason that's even worse is because you can block the one IP address, but now you got to block a whole bunch.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. Perfect explanation of these terms. And I think a lot of you guys already know, right? So on your everyday life, have you guys been victims of a DDoS? Maybe? No? Okay, who owns a PlayStation? Okay, who owns an Xbox? Right? Have you guys experienced that sometimes those networks are down? Yes? Yep. How do you think it happened? How did that network go down? A lot of it is because of DDoS, right? So now us everyday people are trying to play our game and we can't because the networks are down, right? That's you every day. That affects everyone here in this room. So I'm going to give you an example of a case, of a DDoS case that occurred here in New Jersey. And it actually, how it was investigated out of the Newark field office in our cyber squad. I was part of that team that investigated this case. Now, this case is a little bit old now. It started back in 2014, but it still applies to this day. So back in 2014 and 2016, Rutgers University, anybody know Rutgers? Yes, Rutgers, right? Rutgers University. We got some Rutgers alumni, yeah? Maybe? All right, well, okay, there we go. All right, back in 2014 and 2016, Rutgers was getting attacked. There were some DDoS attacks. And the attacker started to brag about it on Twitter. Back in the day, it used to be called Twitter. Now it's called X. And this is what he posted. This is the attacker making fun of Rutgers being down. The whole Rutgers network was down. Their internet was down. Their servers was down. Why do you think the attacker was attacking Rutgers servers? What do you think? Go ahead, Mike.
We're from Rutgers, so maybe we have an unfair advantage. So I'll start with the other reason. You can talk about the other one. One reason was he was frustrated with that he couldn't get the classes he wanted, so he took down the login system. But also,
the other reason was that he had his own DDoS software and he wanted Rutgers to use his software instead of the one they were using.
Okay, so you guys were here last year?
Thanks, man.
No, you guys were not here last year? Okay. Oh, you wasn't. Okay. All right. So what the gentleman said was they're aware that a Rutgers student was actually attacking the Rutgers networks because of some reasons. One of the reasons was because he was a freshman and he could not get to register for classes, right? As a freshman, you usually do not get first dib to register on classes. It's usually seniors, right? Seniors usually get. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason why he attacked Rutgers was because of the bus. For some reason, he was upset about the bus, and he had decided to attack Rutgers. Now, where do you think he learned these skills? Where will you learn how to DDoS a network? Where do you think he learned it?
YouTube Academy.
YouTube, okay, that's a good YouTube. Where else will you learn the skills to be a hacker?
Trial and error on your own. Just
trial and error, okay. Where else? Where else can you learn?
before DDoSing Rutgers, he was really active in the Minecraft DDoSing community, and he learned from other hackers there.
Okay. Minecraft. Who here play Minecraft? Gamers? Minecraft? Yes. I know you were here last year, right? Yeah. Minecraft, playing Minecraft. When he was 13 years old, he was playing Minecraft. And when you play Minecraft and you have your own Minecraft servers, guess what? Those servers, they get attacked. So you want to learn how to protect your servers from DDoS attacks. Well, at the same time, when you learn how to protect, you can also learn how to attack. right? And guess what? If you have a Minecraft server and you're bringing all these other Minecraft players, what is happening? You're making what? Money, right? So that's another motivation for him to start learning how to DDoS other Minecraft servers so he can bring those players to his servers and make more money. And guess what? He was learning these skills at the age of 12, 13 years old. So the individual, his name was Paraz Jah. He's hosted his own Minecraft servers. And he learned how not only to protect himself, but also how to write code to do that, to protect and to attack, right? We learned that here. There was mentioning of the red teams, the penetration testers, right? Sometimes to learn how to protect your networks, you have to attack it, right? So this individual, guess what? He wrote Mirai botnet. Does anybody know what Mirai is? The Mirai botnet. Okay.
I'm sorry if this is a little unfair, but we go to the school and it kind of affected us. It's one of the major botnets that is still in use today by a lot of actors, and there's been a few variations of it. And it just is primarily IoT devices that take commands from a central server that can pretty much take down whatever it's pointed at.
Perfect. It is a botnet that to this day, that code is still being used today. Now, this was written how long ago? The Mirai botnet network was written when? Almost 10 years ago. And to this day, that code is still being used. And again, this botnet, it infiltrates and uses IoT devices. What are IoT devices? Do we know what IoT devices are?
So IoT stands for the Internet of Things. So this is things like the Alexa, the Google Home, the Ring doorbells, the smart lights, all of that.
Yes.
All connected to the Internet.
And every day at your household, how many devices are you keep adding to your network? A lot, right?
A lot. Like my family
Yeah.
family just added like new security cameras.
New security cameras, right? The cameras, the Alexa devices, all of those devices are all connected to the internet. They are susceptible to become part of botnets. And over here, I can show you that when Paraz Jah wrote the Mirai botnet, he was able to take over thousands and thousands of devices worldwide, because these devices are connected through the internet. So it's not just in the US, but all over the world. So all those devices now, whether you know it or not, sometimes your DVR player is also attacking a server out there on the internet. So Amazon Web Services mentioned honeypots, right? We know what a honeypot is? So we use honeypots for investigations as well. We needed to understand how that botnet worked. So we stood up a honeypot to see how it took over our devices and see what exactly it's doing. We have to know now this botnet is being controlled, right? It has to have a control process. So we call that C2, command and control servers. We were able to identify those C2 servers, and eventually we were able to identify Paraz Jah as a suspect. Unfortunately, before we were able to go to his house for a search, he actually made it public. His code, he posted up on the internet. He posted on hack forums. Why do you think he did that? Why would you post a code out there on the internet? What do you think?
I would think because if more than one person has that code, now you don't know where the source is.
Correct. Right. Plausible deniability, right? Yes. Now you cannot say who was actually the author of that code, right? And that's the reason he did that. There's a picture of us going to his house. I was actually there at his house. And at the time, while we were searching his devices, we were taking his devices, he was telling his father, mind you, at this time, Paraz Jah was only 20 years old. And he was a sophomore in Rutgers. And at that time, when we were searching his house, he was telling his father that we made a mistake, that he did not do anything wrong, that he was not the right person, right? Where do you think we found evidence of his attacks?
What was that?
Where do you think we found evidence of the attacker doing DDoS attacks?
When he logged into his net ID, there was like a trail of what he did on the Rutgers networks.
Okay. That's a good place to look, okay. Where else? Where else do you think you can find evidence of a DDoS attack? And this goes into play into digital forensics, right? We have to know where can we find evidence.
Home router or Wi-Fi?
Okay, home router or Wi-Fi, maybe connections somewhere, okay. Where else?
Text message?
Text message? Okay, how do you make a text message? What device do you use to send a text?
Cell phone. So it's
okay.
cell phone, a text message to one of his friends.
Okay. All right, a cell phone, right? Who has a cell phone here? Who has a smartphone here? Everybody, right? So messaging, right? Everybody likes to communicate, right? In this instance, he had a cell phone, but the cell phone, it was an iPhone. It was an iPhone 5, I believe. So this goes way back. Goes way back.
Yeah, throwback.
But he had upgraded to a new phone, right? So when you got a new phone, right, where do you think you can find evidence of old chats? The cloud, that's a good option nowadays. Where else can you find evidence? Huh? I can't hear him.
Service provider.
Service providers? The cloud? Okay, if you have an iPhone, where is the cloud data?
On a hard drive, you
Why?
back it up. You back it up on. Oh.
Say that again?
No, I was going to say you back it up on a hard drive.
Okay.
So,
so if you guys have, who has an iPhone? All right. Who backs up their iPhone to their local computer? Anybody? 1, 2. Okay. Everybody else backs up their iPhone to where? To iCloud? Yeah, everybody? iCloud? So maybe just 2 people does it to their computer. How do you back up your phone to a computer? What do you use? iTunes, right? iTunes. So when you back up your iPhone, which in case you didn't know, you can back up, you don't have to use iCloud. You don't have to pay Apple. You don't have to. It's more convenient, but you have the choice to back up your iPhone to your laptop or to your home PC with iTunes, right? Now, when you have that backup, forensically, guess what? I can pull that backup and see all the chats, all your pictures, all the stuff. So this is what occurred with Paraz Jah. We didn't find evidence of the DDoS attacks on any servers. He had deleted all the evidence. But we were able to find an old iPhone backup, and we were able to find hundreds of thousands of Skype messages hundreds and thousands of Skype messages where he was chatting with his co-conspirators on the attacks towards Rutgers, to other Minecraft servers, to other competitions. This is where we found the evidence. So this is what you got to think. Where can we find the evidence? That phone was long gone. Those messages were no longer there on the devices, but we were able to look for backups. So you have to understand the technology. Nowadays, if that phone is long gone, most likely I am going to look and do legal process to the iCloud account. But we still will look for backups on those laptops or computers. Here's Paras Ja. He was found guilty. He actually pled guilty. Unfortunately, because he was still a young age, he did not get jail time. He got 5 years of probation time. But guess what? He owes Rutgers University $8.6 million. So those cybercrime pays? Sometimes, right, I guess? Not for him. Not for him. Well, he has to pay now, Rutgers University. And this is going back to 2018, right? So it's been quite a while now.
All right, yeah. So I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. Now, obviously, Paras was more of a student doing DDoS attacks. I don't know, who here has heard of Lockbit ransomware? They're one of the largest, if not the largest, ransomware groups in the world. We investigate Lockbit ransomware out of the Newark office here, as well as other field offices and across the world here. Just a quick little glimpse at what Lockbit has to offer here. Cybercriminal Group, they were kind of established around 2019, and they offer ransomware as a service, which is a little bit different than most other ransomware groups, where they pay affiliates to do the attacks, and then the head honchos up on the top are getting all the cuts of the ransoms that are getting paid by the companies. As of 2024, we have 1,600 U.S. victims, and they extorted over $130 million. So quite a lot just for the U.S. victims. This here is Lockbit, the 2.0. Obviously, when you get infected with ransomware, you're going to have the screen pop up. You've been infected. Lockbit 2.0 here. So again, it gives you the timeline, restore my files, kind of give you an idea of how you're supposed to pay the ransom and what they're going to make your ransom at. And here is the Lockbit leak data site. So the Lockbit leak data site is where you would find where your files were. This would be on the darknet. And you'd be able to go there and see a countdown timer to when your files, for whatever company you work for, whoever you're representing, would be released out to the public on the dark web and so on, unless you pay the ransom. So just a few arrests here that have gone on throughout the Lockbit case. This here was a Canadian affiliate who goes by the name of Mikhail Vasilyev. A lot of these guys are Russian. Lockbit itself originates from Russia, but a lot of these guys typically will be of Russian descent. This guy here happens to be a dual citizen of Canada and Russia. Right now, he has been arrested and is serving time in Canada, and then will eventually come here to the United States and serve time as well for the crimes that he's committed. More indictments here going further in terms of charging Russian nationals with establishing criminal infrastructure and ransomware. More with the Lockbit case itself. Here we have Mikhail Medvedev, another Lockbit affiliate, pretty infamous. He's known for lots of other things, but here he is now. He famously took this wanted poster and put it on a T-shirt and started selling it online to kind of troll us. He's a little bit of a troll, but yeah. So either way, Mikhail, he was another affiliate, pretty high up in the Lockbit organization. Quick video here. Should I? Yeah. We'll play this little AI news video about Lockbit.
I am an artificially generated newscaster, and this is a special broadcast about the largest cybercrime story in recent months. A conglomerate of law enforcement agencies, spearheaded by the UK National Crime Agency, the FBI, and Europol, yesterday announced a complete takedown of Lockbit, the largest cyber gang that ever existed. Although takedown might be a bit of a mild word to describe what happened, Lockbit was completely humiliated. Since first appearing in 2019, Lockbit attacked thousands of people, companies, and other entities, and according to law enforcement, extorted billions of dollars from them. They operated as ransomware as a service provider, meaning that a core group of around 100 humans developed software, provided support, and coordinated the attacks. Meanwhile, a network of affiliates performed those attacks, paying a small percentage of the ransom to the developers. Using this model, Lockbit became the largest and most active cyber gang in the world and stayed at the top for years. Until yesterday, when their dark website suddenly began displaying this message. After a short countdown, it leads to a site that perfectly mimics Lockbit's usual list of ransom claims. Only instead of the claims, the site is full of announcements by various agencies. Some of those announcements are already published, and some have a countdown ticking. According to the press releases linked there, the NCA, the FBI, and Europol compromised the entire gang, taking over its services. Law enforcement called this Operation Kronos. They say 34 servers were taken down, 14,000 affiliate accounts suspended, and 200 crypto accounts frozen. In addition, 2 people were arrested in Poland and Ukraine. The posts don't go into detail on who the arrested people were, but at least one of them has been involved in money laundering operations for Lockbit, so we can infer that those are not simple affiliates. The affiliates also weren't forgotten, though. A list of nearly 200 worker bees of Lockbit has been revealed just today. 2 of them were completely doxxed, including Bastard, who was the leader of the affiliate subgroup. The page is also full of your typical quality of life announcements, such as decryption keys, recovery tool, and a link to a British social program that helps former cyber criminals to find a legal job. But this is not even the end. The feds did everything they can to turn the reveal into a full week-long event. In the coming days, they promised to reveal a detailed breakdown of Lockbit's finances, publish an analysis of Lockbit's upcoming ransomware tool, and most important of all, reveal something about Lockbit Sup, the enigmatic leadership of the group. This last bit is really exciting. We know that Lockbit is a bit of an authoritarian organization with one human whose identity is unknown, standing at the top. The FBI has a $10 million bounty on this human's head, which is quite an incentive for some double crossing. In communications with people who talk to him, the head of the gang dismisses any chance of doxing and acts as if it's all a bluff. Well, as this episode is being generated, we don't know what's true and what's not, but several coming days are definitely going to be exciting. While you wait for the big reveal, why...
All right, to kind of take a step back, just for real quick, for those who didn't catch it, because I know I've been kind of going a little bit through this a little bit quicker now. Ransomware as a service, Lockbit was one of the more affluent ones who were doing this. Kind of documented in the video there. A lot of what was happening was you had the head honcho, Lockbit Sup, who was working his worker bees who would deploy ransomware, get the ransom payments, and then have money launderers launder said money, which would then come back in a cut, roughly, whatever it was, 20%, whatever was mentioned there in the video, go up the chain and pay each of the people in the organization. So if you can think of it more or less like a criminal organization and less like a group of people all working as they can attack, it's more people who have roles in this organization. And obviously here, documented, infrastructure was seized by the whole consortium there from the US, France, the United Kingdom, Germany, Finland, Sweden, Netherlands, Australia, Canada, Switzerland, and Japan. So everyone played a huge role in that, and a lot of these big cyber investigations do span multiple countries with obviously multiple victims, not just here in the United States. And because of that, we have to engage with foreign partners and have good relationships so that we can collaborate on these really big takedowns and make it really successful, like Operation Kronos. Obviously here, so this is the picture of the seized website, the darknet website for Lockbit, which previously had hosted some of the places where companies would go to see if their data was leaked or where they can pay, except this time we seized it. We kind of dropped a whole bunch of help links for everybody and eventually did release who is Mr. Lockbit Sup. Obviously sanctions were dropped against the group and all the individuals involved. And as shown in the video too, what also was released was some of the names of people that were affiliates or the worker bees for Lockbit Sup and his criminal organization. So these were the people that were either doing the ransom, deploying it, or doing other things for the group. It could vary on which of the usernames were there, but obviously we had released some of that too. And yes, here we go as the indictment came out and the rewards of up to $15 million for the identity of any of the individuals kind of involved there for leading the identification of people who are behind the criminal organization and Mr. Lockbit Sup himself. Yeah, so I kind of sped through this a little bit before, but Vasiliev, he was sentenced in Canada, so he is spending some time in Canada right now in prison for, I think, I don't know, at least over 15 years. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline there, but once he's done there serving his time, he will come to the United States and serve time here for his crimes against companies within the U.S. and Canada, and for helping the Lockbit criminal organization. I guess, I don't know, should we talk about the sup or no? All right.
If you guys have any questions, I know you guys are eager to get started with the CTF, but if you guys have any questions, we will be hanging out here for a little bit. But thank you, and I hope you guys have fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Much appreciated. Thank you.
All right, everyone, let's do a round of applause for all of our speakers. All right. So, Jersey CTF 5 is officially open. Good luck, everyone. Hope you have fun.